He saved the American Revolution at least 3 times over, wounded twice in the very same leg, fighting for a cause most men in Congress never risked their own skin for. Then, in the autumn of 1780, he tried to hand the entire war to the British in a single afternoon. This is the story of the most brilliant soldier America ever produced, and the closest the revolution ever came to dying from the inside. In the spring of 1775, most of the men who will later be called founding fathers are lawyers, merchants, and planters, debating rights and grievances in the comfort of Philadelphia. Benedict Arnold is already fighting. He will never sign a declaration or draft a constitution. But in the war's first, most desperate years, arguably no single soldier does more to keep the rebellion breathing. Within weeks of Lexington and Concord, Arnold leads the daring capture of Fort Ticonderoga, seizing British cannon that will later force the enemy out of Boston entirely. It is only the beginning. That autumn, Arnold volunteers for something close to suicide, an overland march through 1,100 miles of Maine wilderness to strike Quebec before winter closes the door. Of the men who set out with him, nearly a third never make it, lost to starvation, disease, and desertion. The survivors who do reach Quebec are freezing, starving, and hopelessly outnumbered. They attack anyway, on the last night of the year, in the middle of a blinding snowstorm. The assault fails. The American commander, Richard Montgomery, is killed instantly, and Arnold takes a musket ball through the leg, collapsing in the snow as his men drag him from the field. He recovers. He does not go home. The following year, with almost no ships and almost no time, Arnold builds a scrap timber fleet from scratch on Lake Champlain and throws it directly into the path of an overwhelming British invasion force. He hides his ships in a narrow channel behind Valcour Island, forcing the much larger British fleet to fight in cramped, disadvantageous waters. The battle lasts most of a day. By nightfall, Arnold's fleet is being torn apart. So he does the one thing the British never expect. Under cover of fog and darkness, he rows his surviving ships directly through the British line, oars muffled, no lanterns lit, and escapes south. His flotilla is annihilated days later regardless. But the delay he bought, weeks the British never planned to lose, pushes their invasion back an entire year. Historians still consider it one of the most consequential defeats in American military history. Then comes Saratoga in the autumn of 1777, the battle that convinces France to finally enter the war on America's side. Arnold, technically relieved of field command after a bitter dispute with his superior officer, defies the order anyway, rides onto the battlefield, and personally leads the charge that breaks the British line. He takes a musket ball in the very same leg already shattered at Quebec. George Washington calls him one of the finest fighting generals in the army. Congress calls him a hero. We'll come back to that leg. It isn't finished with him yet. But heroism, it turns out, is not the same thing as reward. And Benedict Arnold is about to learn exactly how little the second one means to the men who write history. By 1777, with 2 shattered legs and a chest full of citations, Arnold expects to be promoted to Major General. Congress promotes 5 other men instead, officers junior to him, with a fraction of his record. Washington is furious on Arnold's behalf and eventually convinces Congress to fix the seniority. But the damage to Arnold's pride is already done, and it is about to get worse. In 1778, still recovering from his ruined leg, Arnold is appointed military governor of Philadelphia, recently abandoned by the British. It should be an easy post. Instead, it becomes a minefield. Arnold lives lavishly, well beyond an officer's salary, and strikes up business deals that look, to his enemies in the Pennsylvania government, suspiciously like war profiteering. He is formally charged, court-martialed. In early 1780, the verdict comes back, guilty on 2 minor counts. Washington, trying to soften the blow to a man he genuinely respects, delivers only the gentlest official reprimand. For most officers, that would be the end of it. For Arnold, it is a public humiliation he cannot forgive. There's one more complication. In Philadelphia, Arnold falls for and marries 18-year-old Peggy Shippen, beautiful, sharp, from a family with deep loyalist sympathies. Before the British left the city, Peggy had been personally courted by a charming young British intelligence officer. His name is John André. Whether Peggy planted the idea in Arnold's head or simply didn't stand in its way, historians still argue. What isn't disputed is the timing. Within weeks of the wedding, secret letters begin crossing the lines between British headquarters in New York and an anonymous American source signing himself only Gustavus. It is Arnold. Using André as the go-between, Arnold offers Britain something far more valuable than information. For the right price, he offers to hand over an entire American army, or an entire American fortress. He asks for £20,000. The talks stall, they restart. They stall again. Then, in the summer of 1780, Arnold makes his move. He tells Washington his leg can no longer handle an active field command, and modestly requests something quieter instead. Washington, still fond of him, still grateful for Saratoga, grants the request without a second thought. What Arnold actually asks for is West Point, the fortress chain controlling the Hudson River, the single choke point keeping New England physically connected to the rest of the rebellion. To Washington, it looks like mercy for a wounded hero. It is in fact the only post in America worth selling. Hand over West Point and Britain could cut the United Colonies clean in half. A personal interview with an officer that you can confide in is absolutely necessary. Arnold writes to arrange it himself. By September 1780, everything is in place. A meeting, a ship waiting on the Hudson. And one detail Arnold hasn't mentioned to anyone back home. George Washington himself is scheduled to visit Arnold's own headquarters within days for a simple breakfast. And by some accounts, Arnold's British handlers were hoping for far more than West Point to walk out that door. If this battle is already shocking you, just wait. But before we continue, if you're new to Bulwark, hit subscribe right now. We uncover the greatest battles and darkest truths history tried to bury. Now back to the battlefield. On the night of September 21st, a small boat slips out from the eastern shore of the Hudson River and rows toward a British warship anchored in the darkness, the HMS Vulture. Aboard it, Major John André, Britain's chief intelligence officer in North America, coming ashore for one final meeting with his American source. You can feel how carefully this has been built. A borrowed house owned by a loyalist sympathizer, a false name, a pass personally signed by Arnold, granting the bearer free passage through American lines. Inside, Arnold hands André 6 documents detailing everything: troop strengths, defensive weaknesses, the precise layout of West Point's works. Enough, in the wrong hands, to hand Britain the Hudson River without firing a shot. André tucks the papers into his boot. Then everything starts to go wrong. Before dawn, American cannon on the riverbank open fire on the Vulture, forcing the ship to slip anchor and retreat downriver, with André still stranded on the wrong side of it, trapped behind enemy lines in civilian clothes, carrying a false name and a pass he shouldn't need. André has no choice but to travel overland, alone, toward the safety of New York. He almost makes it. Just outside Tarrytown on the morning of September 23rd, 3 militiamen step out of the trees and block the road. You can imagine the moment. 3 farmers with muskets, 1 nervous British officer, and a single wrong guess about which side they're on. André, mistaking them for loyalists, makes a fatal miscalculation. He identifies himself as a British officer. The men, John Paulding, David Williams, and Isaac Van Watt, aren't loyalists. André's mistake has just cost him everything. He tries to buy his way out. His watch, his horse, any sum of money they name. They refuse. They search him anyway. And in his boot, folded small, they find 6 documents in Benedict Arnold's own handwriting. The papers travel up the chain of command far slower than they should. But eventually, inevitably, they reach a desk at West Point, minutes before George Washington himself is due to arrive for breakfast with the man who was supposed to be his most trusted general on the river. A courier's letter reaches Arnold's house first, just barely. Arnold reads it at the table, his face betraying almost nothing. He excuses himself calmly, climbs the stairs to warn his wife, then walks out the door and down to the riverbank, where a boat is already waiting. Minutes later, Washington arrives for breakfast. Arnold is gone. Upstairs, Peggy Shippen Arnold has collapsed into hysterics, genuine or performed. No one has ever definitively proven which, and it buys her husband exactly the head start he needs. Washington immediately sends Alexander Hamilton galloping downriver in a desperate attempt to intercept him. Hamilton rides hard enough to nearly kill his horse. He is too late by minutes. By the time Washington fully understands what he's holding in his hands, Arnold is already rowing toward the Vulture and freedom. Arnold has betrayed us, Washington reportedly says. Whom can we trust now? John André is not so fortunate. Tried by a board of American officers, he does not deny what he did, only asks with quiet dignity for a soldier's death. A firing squad, not a rope. Washington refuses. Custom is custom, spies hack. On October 2nd, 1780, André walks to the gallows in his full uniform, ties the blindfold himself, and speaks his final words to the men about to hang him. "Bear me witness that I meet my fate like a brave man." Even soldiers who despise what he did for Arnold reportedly weep watching him die.